lighthouse, a lone oak, the Obliqua Nithophagus, watches over plots 23 of La Robleria Estate in the Colchagua Valley, where our iconic Carmenere grows. The terroir's reddish, deep clay soil mixes with rocks and stones and forces roots to grow into the depths of the earth. The name Obliqua comes from the Latin for ascending line, meaning the root to the highest point. Obliqua Carmenere is grown at 500 meters above sea level, the highest point on the La Robleria estate, and is Viña Ventisquero's top-of-the-line Carmenere. Precious little fruits grow at this location, where, in its infinite fairness, nature compensates for the scarcity with high concentration and quality. Each grape is harvested early, carefully, and by hand.
Obliqua is an elegant wine, with wild berry aromas and a touch of wood, great color and structure. This wine features rich tension.
Sí, estamos bien, está abierto el micrófono. Sí, ¿se llega bien, Juanito, ahí? 1, 2, 3, sí. Sí. Don Felipe Núñez se está conectando. 2, 2, sí, sí, sí. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, sí, sí, sí. 2. No te escucho, Felipe, no te escucho. No llega nada del audio, Felipe. Nada de nada. Ahí, a
Yo
ver.
le escucho.
Ya. Bájenme el zoom en el monitor, por favor.
Estamos haciendo todas las pruebas para que esto
Sí.
salga extraordinario.
Exacto. A mí me llega, pero me llega demasiado fuerte, Felipe.
El equipo de Lumina, el equipo de Estudio Oriente, somos un equipo que sale extraordinario. Muy bueno, cabros.
Sigue hablando, Felipe, un poquito, por favor. 1, 2, 3. Dale.
Bueno, estoy muy contento de que estén acá.
Ya, Juanito, en el monitor, bájame el zoom, córtamelo. En el monitor de texto, córtame el zoom.
Y tengo la imagen que tengo en la pantalla, yo aparezco
Ya.
también en la pantalla.
Ahora, súbemelo en el linear, por favor. Hay que subirme el zoom en el linear.
Ahí. Hola, hola, ¿cómo están? ¿Me escuchan bien? ¿Usted
Yo
está con
sí,
solapa,
un poquito
señora?
más abajo, estoy con solapa, don Felipe Núñez. ¿Cómo me escucha usted?
Me escucho perfecto.
Ya, Juanito,
Perfecto.
bájame un poquito a Felipe en la muela, por favor.
Ojo, recuerden que
Ya,
yo
ahí
hablo
estamos.
fuerte. Las
Sí,
personas que hablan más suave y no se escuchan como yo.
sí. Bueno, ahí en ese caso lo subimos un poquito. Ya, me llega la música, me llega el video, perfecto.
Like an inland lighthouse, a low note
Ahora
of
estoy,
the obliqua
se te corta aquí
esophagus
ahora, pero estoy con el video, estoy con
watches over plots 23
con
of
la...
the Ladronería estate in the Colchagua Valley, where our iconic
Sí, a mí me llega aquí.
Carmenere
Ah,
grows.
Felipe, ¿te llega el audio del video?
Terroir's reddish, deep clay soil mixes with rocks and
¿El video te
stones
llega?
and forces roots to grow into the depths
Sí,
of
dice
the
que le
earth.
llega. Sí, te llega todo.
The
El
name
micrófono, el
obliqua
audio.
comes from the Latin for ascending line, meaning the route to the highest point.
Abraham, te llama Felipe, está en la...
is grown
Va
at
Abraham
500
para allá.
meters above sea level, the highest point on the La Roblería estate, and is Viña
1, 2, 3.
Ventisquero's top of the line
1, 2, 3.
Carmenere.
Sí,
Precious
sí,
little
sí.
fruits grow at this location, where, in its infinite fairness, nature compensates for the scarcity with high concentration and quality.
2, 2.
Each grape
1, 2, 3,
is
sí.
harvested early, carefully,
Chicos,
and
Dígame.
by hand.
Obliqua
Exacto,
is
ahí
an
el video
elegant
está.
wine
no sé si
with
te va a bajar un
wild
poco el
berry
video, pero
aromas
sí
and a
suena
touch of
fuerte.
wood. Great color.
No, a mí me llega, a mí en el
This
linear
wine
me llega
features
bien.
rich tension
Ya, entonces,
created by
ahora lo
balance
bajaron
acidity,
mucho el video, súbale un
coming
poco.
from a high
Ya,
altitude
pero para el máster.
The height
Juanito,
of Chile's
el
Apalta
video hay
Valley
que subirlo solamente para la mezcla general, no en el linear yo lo encuentro
a
bien.
wine that is imposing and
¿Ya?
Ahí,
distinguished,
Ahí está ahí.
like the oak that shelters its plot.
1, 2,
está
3.
bien, muchachos.
Sí, sí. Ya, Juanito, el zoom súbelo un poquito, porque Felipe tiene razón, a lo mejor hay gente que no habla fuerte y depende de su conexión también cómo nos vaya a llegar. Así que súbeme a Felipe nomás en la muela.
Te voy a dejar acá, César, estamos en pegue. Ya, lo que sí, están pidiendo un delay
Sí, eso lo tengo que ver.
Ya, dale.
Ya,
Chicos, yo te escucho bien, tenemos
Ya.
una buena comunicación.
ya espérame, deja probar el otro micrófono, ya, dame un segundo.
Ya, oye, ¿por qué Zoom están transmitiendo? Porque no se ve en HDA.
Nunca se ve en HD.
¿No?
Juanito, ábreme el otro micrófono, por favor.
Ahora se está viendo mejor el video. Sí.
Sí. Ya, Felipe, ese es el otro micrófono. ¿Cómo?
Ya.
1, 2, 3. Felipe, ese es el otro micrófono.
Grande, aplastito.
Sí, te escucho.
1, 2, 3. Ese es el otro micrófono. ¿Ya? Ese es el otro micrófono. 1, 2, 3.
Te escucho perfecto.
Ya, ok. Eso sería el otro micrófono.
Espérate, César. Gerard, en la consola de DJ que tengo yo allá abajo, mi consola, ves la entrada de enchufe, porque creo que tengo un mini plug de grande a chiquitito. Eso es lo que necesitáis, ¿cierto?
Oye, tenemos alguna parte de hasta una sesión.
Dile a Abraham que es el costo de trabajar aquí. Abraham, ¿te pidiste un gaffer entero? Ya, que lo carguen a la cuenta. Muchachos, no tengo ningún audio ahora en Zoom. Yo no estoy escuchando nada. Chicos, si tú me escuchas, no tengo ningún audio yo.
No, si ya muteé todo yo, Felipe. Estaba muteado. Murió los micrófonos.
Terminaban las pruebas.
Ya. Ok, gracias.
Eso, chau,
Conecto.
chau.
Chau.
Okay, hello everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. I hope so. Everyone give me a little bit of a wave if you can hear me. Okay, good. It's all very technical, isn't it? Very flashy. I love it. So hello everybody. I'm Unia Doyle, the UK brand ambassador, which I think many of you know. Just before I start, I just want to make a few thank yous. I want to thank the Cheese Geek. I think hopefully you've all got your cheese delivery and cheeses in front of you with the wines. Yes, hopefully. I'm just wondering, is everyone hearing the music as well? Yeah, I don't know if we can slowly bring the music down. Perfect. So I want to say thank you all for joining us. No one from the Cheese Geek is here, but I have to say they've been fantastic to communicate with, and I have on high authority that the cheeses are delicious. So anyone opportunity that you have, go and get something from the Cheese Geek. I want to also say thank you, Zoe from Emma Wellings PR. You've been fantastic getting everybody here and organising things so perfectly, like you always do. Thank you. Why are we all here? We're here for the Obliqua launch, all very exciting. So how it's going to run, you should have your 3 wines in front of you, all from Apalta. We will start with the Vertisquero 2019. That's a wine that you should probably all be familiar with as it's been selling in the UK for a while. We will then go on to the Obliqua. So Obliqua 2017, which has just landed in the UK. It's our first vintage of this wine, and then we'll try the 2018 as well to compare and see how it is going to evolve and how it's going to change. Okay, so there's the 3 wines. You have those cheeses. We're not specifically going to be talking about how the cheeses pair with the wine. The guys are just going to kind of talk about the wine. So have fun, pair them as you want, go crazy. If you do have any comments, let us know. You are going to be on mute for a while. So any questions, put them in the chat box and I will try and ask them as we go throughout. But stay to the end because we will unmute everything and you'll all be able to ask questions and say hi to the guys, which will be lovely. I just want to clarify one thing whilst I have your attention. Last year, 2020, we changed the name of our winery from Vineyard Ventisquero to Ventisquero Wine Estates. So if you didn't know that, you do now. And the reason for the change simply was because we felt it reflected us in a more global sense, but also in the kind of modern and innovative style of winery that we are. And the slogan for Ventisquero Wine Estates is cultivating origins. So it reflects, or at least we think, it reflects more the terroirs and the vineyards and the land that we have. So none of the brands within Ventisquero Wine Estates have changed. It's just the name of the winery. So our main brand, Ventisquero, is what you're going to be drinking the wines from today. Anybody who wants spending on social media, just to let you know the handles. If you're on Instagram, at Ventisquero_wines, and on Facebook, it's at Ventisquero Wines. If you want a hashtag, it's hashtag Obliqua Carmina. And I think that's everything I wanted to say. So without further ado, I will present our chief winemaker, Felipe Tosto, and our chief viticulturist, Sergio Omazado. So guys, no more from me, over to you.
Hello to everybody. We are today very excited about this presentation. We're going to show you and talk about our terroir Apalta. But first of all, well, as Janina just said, she gave us the order. You have the 3 wines. I hope you opened the wines already. Well, of course, maybe a lot of you have already tasted the wines. We cannot control things, and that's the beauty that we have all this freedom. But today, here's early in the morning. I imagine over there it's already afternoon, near lunchtime. But the beauty that we're here in the studio is that we're going to be able to show you, to try to bring you to Chile, to our Apalta origin vineyard. We're talking about La Robería. Here right now, I'm with my partner, Sergio Omazado, winemaker, but in charge of the viticulture, chief in viticulture. So it's going to be an exciting day about talking about. We're going to have about an hour and a half talking about the wines, telling you, bringing you to this area. So I'm going to start with Sergio, saying hello, Sergio. How are you today?
Fine, thank you, Felipe. Thank you very much. We are very excited to show you this evening the terroir of Apalta, the wines, Thank you for joining us, everybody. And for us, we are very proud and very excited to be this virtual tasting and this tour for in the Apalta region. So first of all, I want to invite you to follow me to a virtual trip for flying south to Santiago, to the Colchagua Valley, 200 kilometers south to Santiago. Probably many of you have been there, know this beautiful valley. The Colchagua is huge. It goes from the Andes to the ocean, to the Pacific Ocean. But in the middle of the valley, I have a very specific place that is the Apalta appellation. In Apalta, we grow vineyards for 1 century, but it's just a quite new appellation. This appellation have 3 years old. So finally, we are very proud to use this Apalta appellation because it's so distinctive in the Colchagua Valley. So follow me in this trip. So we are now in the middle of Colchagua in Apalta, and in Apalta there is a beautiful mountain, 1,500 meters altitude mountain that is surrounded by forest. And then in this mountain, in the middle of the mountain at 500 meters of altitude, we get La Roblería vineyard. Roblería in Spanish means oak, Chilean oak forest, okay? Because the place is surrounded by the forest, native forest, and this is specific and beautiful Chilean oak that is very key for the wine and the terroirs that we're gonna taste today. So this beautiful and magical place that John and Felipe and all the team we have discovered since the beginning of the project, because we established the vineyard in the year 2000. So we fall in love, John, Felipe, and I, and all the team, we fall in love with this beautiful, beautiful place since the beginning. And why this place in Apalta is so special? I think that this is a side slope. That is the opposite that happened in the north hemisphere, of course. So here the south slope is more humid. We have more rain because the cloud hits the mountain. So normally in this place we have between 600 to 700 millimeters in rain. That is more that happen in the flat. And so that makes a special condition of this area and this slope. And then something additional to this, concerning the soil, the Apalta soil in general is a matrix of granitic soil with beautiful orange and red clay. That's right, Felipe?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. With about 30% of clay in the matrix. But if you go up in that Roblería vineyard at 500 meters, in the blocks 25, that's Sierra block 25 and Carmener block 23, we have over this matrix of granitic soil. This granitic soil is quite very old. It have 150 million years old. But over this soil, we have some layers of a colluvial soil that is full of sharp stones that came from the mountain, mostly basaltic and different volcanic origins. And it's like a mosaic, like a puzzle of soils in the upper part of this beautiful vineyard. So this soil is different in the upper part and in the down part of the Roblería. It's 2 meters deep. It's really, really deep, and the vines can really, really grow through the soil very, very deep, and that makes the difference. The stability, and that soil is like a sponge that takes all the humidity, all the rain that we have. That is more high rain that we have in this slope, and this big sponge takes a lot of water, and we don't need to irrigate really. It's almost a dry farming there. We irrigate 1 or twice just in the warmer years, but normally we don't need it. So that's why for us is quite special. The vineyard there is very adapted. Is that feel really at home, and this specific soil in the upper part of the Apalta that Felipe will taste in a while. If you take all together, if you taste this south side, this specific humid and more rainy place, this granitic and clay granitic matrix with the stones that we have in the layers, that is between 30 to 50% of stones, and all the forest surrounded this vineyard, plus the expertise, the know-how of the John Duval, Felipe, and the team, we do the magic to get the beautiful grapes to make the wines that we're gonna taste tonight. 3 wonderful wines that Felipe will explain you what happened with this grapes that we produce in this magical place in Apalta. Tell to our friends.
Amazing, Sergio. Well, first of all, to everybody, we're going to make salud.
Salud.
To start tasting, we have to be very honest and tell you that it's a beautiful day. You know, it has been hard times for everybody. You know, all this virus and thing is not so easy. But we haven't stopped working, so we still make wine. We always go to the winery. So this bug doesn't let the wine go down. And I think I've drank more wine and good wine than ever.
Absolutely.
So we're going to start talking about Vertice. Vertice or Vertice, or Vertice if you want to talk in Italian, as you wish, or Vertice if you want to say it in French. There's a story always on back of a wine. And when we talk about Vertice, we're really talking about a wine that is in the top part of the vineyard. It's 2 blocks. And the story tells us that and I was in the story, I think. You were also in the story, Sergio. And of course, John Duval. So our partner, John Duval, started to work with us in 2003. When he came here to visit us, he was amazed with this Apalta vineyard. And today I also want to say and make a cheer for the discovery man that discovered Apalta, who is Cristian Vial, the brother of the owner of Saba Vial. That today he's not with us. A few weeks ago, he passed away, but he was the one who discovered and got this beautiful vineyard for us. So I'm going to make a cheers for Cristian Vial, a friend of us and an amazing man. And he's part of the story of Vertice. I always remember when we showed Vertice to Cristian Vial and Gonzalo Vial, the family who owns Viña Ventisquero, they were amazed of this first or second wine that we were making, especially a blend. So the story, we were working with John Duval a Saturday, the last day of the week that we worked. He would come twice a year to Chile, and we were in May in vintage time, and finishing the vintage, and also doing some new blends. We had just released the year before, or had made Pangea, 2004, which was our first vintage, and we were working in 2006 in looking for a new blend. And when we were doing this, what happened? We were making blend. It was normally we would finish at lunchtime at Saturday. We would go home or to a restaurant with John and my family, and then at night, Saturday night, he would leave back to Australia. And I was tired. It's been a long week, and we were always blending with John. But of course, John wasn't so easy for him to understand Carmenere. It's not an easy variety when you come from outside, especially from Australia, very different. But he really loved the Syrah. They were very different from his Australian Shiraz. So we were trying to blend more like a Cabernet, Syrah, and maybe a little bit of Carmenere. And then I remember I said to him, "Look, John, I'm going to go 2 seconds away. I was a little bit tired." And when I come back, he shows me the glass of wine, and he had done a blend. And there's always a factor I love. It's like, wow, the wow factor. So what is it? I said. And he said, "No, you're a little bit tired. I won't tell you. When you go in Australia in August, I'll tell you." So I went, and I didn't know what the blend was. So we went to have lunch. We had fun. And that was just the beginning of Vertice. And today, Vertice is a blend of Carmenere, 51% this vintage, 2019, and 49% Syrah. So these 2 blocks, that's what's the reminding. It has been a beautiful journey with this wine that started in 2005. Today you're tasting the last vintage that has been just released, 2019. So it's already 16, 17 vintages that we have made of this wine. It's always made from the same 2 blocks. Blocks 23 for Carmenere block 25 for Syrah. And it's a block that is in between one of the two blocks. There's a big creek. So we're talking about the upper part, as Sergio was explaining recently, that here it's amazing the beauty and the influence, of the oak trees, of the Chilean trees, like the boldo trees, like the maiten trees. And there's like what we call in Spanish a sotobosque. It's like the small Chilean forest. So you can feel the forest, you can feel the humidity, and that is part of this wine. Things make it easy, a very classical fermentation, some open tanks, normal fermentation, we do a little bit of cold soaking before, to extract is quite simple at the beginning, and then we do a long aging. It's a typical long aging, 22 to 24 months, and just 40% new oak and a percentage of food. We've been using the big vats more and more on these wines because we love the way that the wines get a little bit more tension, a little bit more tight, and of course less influence of the oak. So this is the 2009 Vertice. And why we're talking about Vertice? Well, first it's a beautiful wine to show, but Vertice is where the story of Obliqua starts. Because of Vertice is that we made Obliqua. So talking about that, we're going to go to a video, and you're going to see one of our friends.
Watches over plots 23 of La Robleria Estate in the Colchagua Valley, where our iconic Carmenere grows. The terroir's reddish, deep clay soil mixes with rocks and stones and forces roots to grow into the depths of the earth. The name Obliqua comes from the Latin for ascending line, meaning the route to the highest point. Obliqua Carmenere is grown at 500 meters above sea level, the highest point on the La Robleria estate, and is Viña Ventisquero's top-of-the-line Carmenere. Precious little fruits grow at this location, where, in its infinite fairness, nature compensates for the scarcity with high concentration and quality. Each grape is harvested early, carefully, and by hand.
Obliqua is an elegant wine with wild berry aromas and a touch of wood, great color and structure. This wine features rich tension created by its balanced acidity, coming from a high-altitude Carmenere.
The heights of Chile's Apalta Valley give birth to Obliqua, a wine that is imposing and distinguished, like the oak that shelters its plot.
Thank you for joining us. I hope that you have enjoyed this beautiful video. It's like a virtual tour to this specific place in the Apalta. And as you saw in the video, in all the Robleria, the last corner of the block 23 at 500 meters in altitude, we have this specific place. And since the beginning, we harvest apart. We harvest apart every single spot, every single corner in Apalta. We do that, Felipe, in all our projects. And that's why it's the only way to see in HD, to say in high definition what we have under our feet, and to detect and to find the real jewels that are in the terroir. So this specific corner of the block 23 have a difference with the rest of the block. So we have more stones there. We have around 50% of colluvial stones, that sharp stone that I told you, and that makes the balance of the soil is different. The clay is a little low, so the elegance that we get in the wine that Felipe will tell you is an important difference. And of course, in this place there's something magic, because did you see a tree? It's an oak tree that is in the middle of the block. That is the Obliqua. Is the name of the tree is Nothofagus obliqua. Is the name of the Chilean oak. And in this soil, and in this specific corner, year after year, we start with John Duval and Felipe. We start to discover there's something different here. There's something special. And then, normally to cook a special cake, you need more time. So then we discover, we realize, and then we start to get more excited. And finally, we get the grapes to make this amazing project that calls Obligua. That's right, Felipe?
Absolutely. And you know what? The beautiful way to make Obligua, and we were talking with Sergio how it started. And we did it in 2007 and 2006, a long time ago. We did a big journey working with a quite amazing, consultants. We worked with Eduardo Silva, a great consultant. Then we brought Rob Gibson from Australia. He was a partner of John Duval in soils. We call him the Dirt Man. And then we also worked with Pedro Barra in a very big way, especially in Apalta. All that journey made us separate. We don't show it and we don't talk it too much now because it's like part of our life, but we separated by percentages of clay. We did this big mapping. I always tell that in Chile, even though we are an old country in terms of winemaking, 500 years of winemaking, but we're still quite new. We don't have 20 generations or 10 generations. Maybe a few wineries do. But we're quite young, especially in Ventisquero. We're quite young. It's 20 years already, but still quite young. So this way of looking at the terroir in a deep way and separating the soils and understanding how to irrigate or not to irrigate is so important. So this small block that was Sergio talking about, all the characteristics, was so different. And when you talk about Carmenere, we're talking about the family of the Cabernets, because the Carmenere, and of course you know much more than us, we're just winemakers, as I say, we're like cookers, in the kitchen, but in our winery, we're talking about of the family of Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc is the father of the Carmenere. So genetically, Cabernet Franc and always this variety I never remember got together and made Carmenere. It's part of the appellation of Bordeaux, where nobody really has Carmenere. I think Olson or somebody were putting. I saw some little Carmenere in Mouton once, but it's so specific to Chile today. And of course, there's more in other places. You can find a little bit in Italy. There's a little bit in China. But the country has made Carmenere. Its variety is Chile. And it's been a variety. There's been a lot of talking about it. It's been at times that it's too green, it's too silky, whatever. But here, when we're talking about Obligua, we're talking about a sense of place, a specific place where just surrounding this big oak that you can see, Janina, this on the photo there, is that huge oak, and we've been showing here. And naturally, because of the stones, because it has this big mountain on the back, the yields are very, very low. We're talking about 1 kilo or sometimes even less than 1 kilo per plant. We're talking about a selection of only 1.5 hectares. And here, this Carmenere, there's more like in the Cabernet family wines, like a Cabernet Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon. But because of the stones, you can feel in the 2017 that it's an older wine than 18, of course. You can feel this tight tannins. It's a little bit restrained, the wine. It's not a very opulent style of Carmenere. So we want to reflect and show really what is happening on an altitude Carmenere. This is the highest vineyard in Apalta, not super high. We're talking about 500 meters vineyard. But if you see the low part of the Carmenere and the entrance of the old vines of Carmenere in Apalta, they're at 200 meters. So it's a completely different type of Carmenere. There's a few Carmeneres in Apalta from other wineries. So when we've been tasting with the friends over there in the neighborhood, we have all these different expressions. And I love that. And that is terroir, what we call in Spanish terruño. It's very important to be able to get to have a sense of place. By the other way, Vértice, where before all this Carmenere was used for Vértice, we started to make this difference maybe 10 years ago. And we started to see that there was this Carmenere. But there was one idea that we wanted to change the way that we put this wine in the barrels. The fermentation is classical. Pump overs, 3 pump overs, extraction, post-maceration. But then how did we put this wine on the barrel? So we wanted very low influence of the barrels. It's a wine that has a lot of tannin, so it does need to be in oak. So we put it on second-use barrels that were used before 2 years. So it's a second-use barrel, but with 2 years of use. and that's 70%, and the other 30% is a big vat, that also was used. So no really big influence of oak, just to show the beauty of this Carmenere from the upper part of La Palta. So that's 17. And 17 is a warmer year. We're talking about a warm year. 17 is maybe one of the warmest year in Chile. But because of the altitude, this beautiful terroir, Sergio, we always talk about, Sergio about how top terroirs have this balance,
They are so stable. Even if we have in Chile the warm years, cold years, even that in the top terroirs, what has happened in Apalta or maybe in the High Maipo, they are really stable. You feel like the consistency year after year. Of course, there are some little nuance difference, but they are the consistency of the terroir. You taste it. You taste it in the glass.
And it's very funny because when we're talking about these two wines, we talked that 17 and 18, there's completely different vintages. We're talking about a warm vintage, 17, and 18 is completely different, a very cool vintage. Even when you see in your technical sheets, you will see that we harvest, this is the wine that we harvest in one day. One day is the harvest for Obliqua. It's just 1.5 acres, so very small. And what happens here is that we harvest for 17 on the 13th of April, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but around that. And I remember exactly that 18 we harvest the last day of April, like the 13th. So we're talking about 17 days of difference. In other varieties, it was about a month, even though. So, but you can feel the difference in flavors. There's two different. If you see the numbers, like the 13.8, pH 3.5, the numbers are very, very similar in terms of analytical numbers. But a wine is much more than numbers. It's really not about the numbers. So even though they're both 13.8, 3.5, beautiful pHs, the acidity of 18 is a little bit higher than 17. The flavors aromatically are different. You will feel more red fruit in a warmer year, and you will feel a little bit more black fruit on a cooler year. And of course, the complexities are different, of course. So we're showing you what's just arrived to UK, but this wine has already been just arriving to UK, but that's what it is. But around the world in general, it's quite sold out. And the 18 is what's going to come soon. So it's always good to compare. I love to compare to vintages to start the story. We're just starting the story. When we tasted Vertice, there's around 14 alcohol, you can see a little bit of the story. But of course, the Carmenere and Syrah blend makes it a very different wine than just a unique wine. These two wines also being more and thinking more in the concept with John and Sergio as a team. It's Bordeaux, Chilean Bordeaux. Of course, we cannot talk about Bordeaux because we're so different in climate and weather. But of course, we have an influence. These are French varieties. And so this wine also has a little bit of a Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot that come from Apalta. Very slight, very small. We're talking about 6% of you can see exactly in the technical sheet. Exactly. So there's a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon and a little bit of Petit Verdot that just enhances and makes it the style that we feel that the wine is about. It's like salt and pepper. I think a winemaker, we love to cook. You can see that we love to eat. So a little bit of salt and pepper always makes the wines more interesting. I love blending. I think one of the beautiful things of life is being able to blend. I know with this pandemic, we've been cooking a little bit more than ever at home. Yeah. I think everybody's having better food than ever. So these wines, it's all about gastronomy. When we make wines with John, Sergio, and all the team, we think about gastronomy. We think about Chilean gastronomy, international gastronomy, and that's all what we want. So 17 and 18 are the first two Obliqua, 100% Carmenere. And now we're going to open for some questions. So please.
So, two questions have been asked. So, first of all, can you clarify what is the name of the gentleman who found the Apalta site, please?
Yeah, Cristian Vial. Cristian Vial is the brother of Gonzalo Vial. Gonzalo Vial is the owner of Viña Ventisquero, Ventisquero Wine Estates. And Cristian Vial has always been, was always the partner of Gonzalo looking for the vineyard. And he was an amazing man, just passed away a few weeks ago. And he was always for us so important in our heart because he was an amazing person. And I love that. He was always so glad about drinking a wine from a planta.
Now, the next question is, how many bottles did you produce in 17 and also, I guess, in 18 as well?
We produced, I don't remember exactly the number, but we're talking about 1.5 hectares. So we're talking about 5,000 plants. So it's about 7 tons, really, 7,000 kilos. We're doing about 6,000 bottles of each vintage. It hasn't changed. It will vary between 6,000 to 7,000 bottles in general. It's just this small block, unique block. We're not doing any more than that. So it's a very small production.
Okay. And is this wine to drink now, in your opinion, guys, or is this going to age very well? For how long?
Look, being in Chile and having earthquakes, I release a wine and I drink it very fast. Because we're going to have an earthquake and you will lose. And the last earthquake, I lost half of my bottle. So I still keep some wine. Look, this is a beautiful question, and I love it. And it's so complicated to answer it because it depends a lot about your taste. We're all so unique and so different. It's a wine that, of course, I think you need to decant it and give it a little bit of air because it is a little bit tight, you know. And you can drink it, and I think especially 18 is a little bit more tight. But of course you can drink it now. But these are wines that will age beautifully. We just did a big tasting about a few months ago, tasting the first wines of Ventisquero 2001, Cabernet, and Carmenere in the Grey brand, which were our first wines. And we did a beautiful tasting of the 20 years of Ventisquero. And the wines are still amazing. They're still there. So we're talking about younger wines with younger vineyards. These wines are at least 20 years old on its own roots. So these were wines that I think will have no problem for the next 10, 15 years. But then life, you know, the wines, we make the wines, we nurture the wines, and then our kids go. And we don't know what's going to happen. It's about them. So we release them, and it depends. Of course, in London or in England, where it's quite cold in general, you know, a few times, the wines age much better than in warmer areas. I've seen that. You know, it's all about the temperature at the end. But these wines will have a long time. No issues with that.
Another question, are you worried, this is an interesting one, are you worried that Vertisay is going to suffer now that you have the best Carmenere going into Obliqua?
No, not at all. No, we planted, but when we do this progress, we do, to make this wine, it took us about 10 years of thinking, and we planted about 10 years ago, we planted just on the block 26 for Vertisay. Specifically, we planted more Carmenere and more Syrah in a higher part, just at the same altitude that we did. And of course, the vines are older. We do a little bit less of Vertisay, but just a little bit less. And Vertisay is not suffering. Well, that's why you can see it. Here you can see 19. Vertisay is beautiful. It's always really going well. But it's a good question.
I mean, I don't know if I have permission to do this, but I'm just going to go. Yeah, I have permission. We are going to go.
As always.
I've got permission. I love having permission. Well, we have quite a few questions coming up. You guys are asking too much, so we love that. We're going to go to a video, and then I think we're going to open up the mics because it makes sense to get you guys talking. So I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, we want to invite our big friend from Australia, John Duval.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, greetings from the Barossa Valley on this really special day, exciting day for the release of Obliqua. Really, it's a celebration of Carmenere, of course. I'm sorry I can't be with you, but we're happy to send this video to support the launch today. Carmenere is a special variety. It's a variety I only came to really meet in 2004 vintage when I started work with Felipe. And I've grown to love the variety. It has that lovely red fruit, herbal, spice expression, and I've really learnt to love the style. Working with Felipe has been fantastic because he brings a wealth of experience. Even before he joined Ventisquero, Felipe, as a young winemaker, had the opportunity to work with some great Carmenere vineyards, so he's been a great guy to work with. Over the years, we've developed a great partnership. Felipe with his excellent winemaking skills, knowledge of Chilean terroir, and I guess I bring to the party experience with Syrah, Cabernet, and Mediterranean varieties. Over the years, we've released some wines, obviously Tangier and Vertis from the Apalta vineyard as well. But over many years we've hosted tastings showing the wines made from the different blocks at Apalta, that beautiful vineyard in the Colchagua Valley. It really is a special vineyard. As time has gone on, the vines have got older, and the more and more we've liked the Carmenere that's being produced from Block 23 at the top of the Apalta vineyard. So what is it that's special about Obliqua? Well, first of all, it really talks to the site. Nearly 500 metres in elevation at the top of the beautiful Apalta vineyard, stony soils, rich red clay, and it's naturally led to an elegant expression of Carmenere. Lower pH, which I think is very important for the style. It helps with the vibrance and elegance of the wine. Balanced acidity, a beautiful expression of pure fruit, red fruit, white pepper, herbal spice, and of course chalky tannins. It's a beautiful, elegant wine. So this is not every day that we release a new wine. It's a wine that we're very proud of, Philippe and I. And all I can say is we should raise a glass to welcome Obliqua. Cheers.
Loved it. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed John's addition, so he wasn't able to come. I think the microphones are going to be unmuted. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I was going to say, if you're feeling brave enough to ask your question directly, does Andrew want to, rather than me reading? Let's see. Let's see if Andrew says anything.
Hello.
Hello.
Want to hear anything? Yeah. Hi. I was just interested in the what proportion of Obliqua is exported. And obviously what the key export markets are going to be if you've only got 6,000 bottles. How do you divide that up?
That's an amazing question. Huh?
Good question.
Look, in general, we have our what we call our high-end wine markets. We do always leave, of course, a little bit of proportion for Chile. Chile is a very important market for us. Of course, making Carmenere. Our biggest market drinking Carmenere is still Chile. So Chilean people love Carmenere, so we're Chilean, so Chile is a very important market. 2017 Obliqua is sold out in Chile, so we're just launching now 18, so to let you know. But of course, UK, Brazil, United States, China, Japan, our main premium markets, Canada also. And we do little, every commercial director has a little portion, like you have 600 bottles, you have 1,000 bottles, you have, depending on the market and the size and how premium they are, but a little bit for everybody, but at least maybe for like 20 markets.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Joanna had a question. She wants to be famous. Is Joanna there? Do you want to ask? And it's actually a very interesting question.
Mute myself. Are you going to stick with these very heavy bottles? 1,528 grams.
Yeah, it's a good question. Finally, the bottle of the weight of the bottle is an issue that we are all the time. We take care about that. We just choose a bottle to show the quality and how specific the wine is. Normally, we take a lot of care about all the sustainability things in general. The thing of a bottle, yes, maybe it's because of the characteristic of the wine, and we try to put the wine in a beautiful bottle. But going more deep in the sustainable issues, I want to share with you that we are in Apalta. We are organic for 3 years, the organic management, and we are in the way to certify. But it's a good question. It's never easy. The thing, some people in some part of the world, in China, they like heavy bottles. In Europe, you like more light bottles. It's a complicated thing. Finally, Philippe, what do you think?
Yeah. Look, it's an amazing question. I think the UK market has always been a leading market in that. And as a winery, about 90% of our bottles are or 95% we have been going down in lightweight bottles. In the premium category, this is a very old bottle. It's a French bottle, so that we've been used for Ventisquero, for Enclave. It's a bottle that we love. It's not a light bottle, and sometimes you have some things that are not so sustainable as others. It's our reality. We are not changing the bottle. I love that question. We have discussed it internally, so it's a matter. But this is the bottle that we have. Can't say more about that. We're not changing the bottle, Joanna. I'm sorry for that. but it's been lovely, and just getting what some of the things about Sergio is talking about. Sergio has a chief viticulture. And also a winemaker. We are always working about sustainability. I think that Ventisquero was the first winery to be 100% sustainable from the Chilean standards, wines of Chile standards, for the winery and vineyards at the same time.
That was in 2013, and we are very proud to be the first winery to be certified in both, in vineyard and winery. And also we take a lot of care about the water. I told you at the beginning that we do dry farming here in Apalta and different other vineyards, and for us the water management and also the sustainable things has been really important since the beginning. Sometimes you could use heavy bottles, but we try to be consistent in general in all the things that we do, and all the why we manage the water, and we are really going forward in the organic way, especially in Apalta, and of course in the water management. We have just to tell you some spoiler, the last 3 years we have planted around 20 hectares of 100% dry farming vineyard in Colchagua and in Maipo, and that doesn't happen for the last 100 years maybe in Chile. So we are really proud to go forward in this direction. Just for you.
Great.
Don't share this information.
I think they will. Who's next? I mean, I'm wondering whether I should invite up my good friend Alistair Cooper, who, by the way, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but he did help a little bit with the cheeses. He gave a little suggestion. Ali, do you have anything to say? Did you taste the cheeses with the wines?
Oh, the cheeses, yeah, it is. Yeah, well, I've just started consulting with the Cheese Geek, so about 3 weeks, so I do work for them, so you have got someone here who kind of works for them. So I look very red on that screen, don't I? It must be, I don't think I look that red in person.
You look great.
Thanks, man. Good to see
you, Alistair.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. The cheeses are great. But I'm very happy to say something about the wines and maybe have a couple of questions as well. I think, having tasted a considerable amount of Chilean Carmenere, I'm really impressed with this, especially the 18. And as you say, I think there are certainly similarities in the two wines, but certainly differences. You can taste the warmth and there's like sweetness in the 17 and the 18. Those chalky tannins that John talked about, I think, come through quite considerably. But it's amazing how I opened the wines about an hour ago, and how they've changed being open. You know, there's a distinctly sort of smoky, meaty, gamey, savoury character when I opened both of them, and I think the first thing I wrote is this is unlike any Carmenere I've kind of tried before, but then with time in the glass, especially the 18, it's developing those sort of ground coffee characters that you get from Carmenere, and it's just I'm so impressed generally with how Carmenere has progressed in the last 5-6 years in Chile, probably the last decade actually in Chile, and seeing these new styles of Carmenere come on, and I'm really very impressed in this. It is Carmenere, but it's certainly moved away from those distinctly herbaceous styles that we saw, so often. But I do have a question actually, Sergio, for you. When talking about establishing these dry farmed vineyards, it seems kind of, it's great that you're doing that, but Chile obviously has had a decade of drought, and can you talk me through kind of how you establish in the vineyards in the first few years with such a lack of water?
Thank you for the question, Alistair. It's a question and thing because we are we start for 10 years ago searching about this draft that you say because it's happened one thing when you have a vineyard that is used to have a irrigation every week. It's completely different than when you establish a vineyard since the beginning with a philosophy of dry farming. Okay, so it's completely different because the vineyard has some DNA that you activate when you establish a vineyard. But if you have used to irrigate for years every week, you lose it, and it's impossible to have a success. But if you since the beginning you try to you put a very deep hole in the plantation, and then we selected the specific plants, and then we need to have patience because when you establish in a dry farming, you don't have a harvest in the second year. You must wait 4 or 5 years. So it's a different philosophy, different way to work. So we didn't pruning at the first year, so we let the roots exploring and go very, very deep, and it's a completely different way to work. And in that way, you see how the vineyard reacts and follow you because the DNA, the vineyard the vine is very rustic. It's very rustic. So when you push a little bit in a gentle way to be resistant to the draft, you see the reaction. But you must be consistent since the beginning. If you are in a hurry, if you get nervous and you start to irrigate because it's too hot, of course it's not possible to go the way. So it has been a very long way for learning about the old, the ancestral ways, how the people, the old agriculturists, they do 100 years ago, it's like a review how to do the things, but in a modern way, and to be patient and really know every single place. You can't do that with any variety in any place or wherever. You must be sure that the soil have the conditions, the plant, the variety is rustic, and of course that the way that you establish the first years are the right to take all the best potential from the vine. I don't know if I answered your question, Alistair.
No, you did that. That's great. And I suppose while I've got you, just one more question: how important in the evolution of Carmenere has been, we've seen that the site is so important. You don't want anywhere too hot. But site and harvest time are very important. But how far have you come in things like clonal selection in Chile with Carmenere? Is that become an important factor or less so?
No, in Carmenere we don't have any clonal selection at the moment. We just have the muscle selection, the specific muscle selection from some universities, and we use in the old plant, the old blocks and the new projects. We use a specific muscle selection, but this doesn't exist clonal. The clone is interesting, but also the muscle selection have this variety, that special finger print that is difficult to copy. So at the moment there is 4 muscle selection available in Chile, and we try with all of them. We are still learning which is the best adapted. You need time to know in a very deep way a terroir.
Cool. Great. Thank you very much, Sergio.
You're welcome.
And what we're using today in Apalta are the old muscle selections that were not even the selections that we have today. These were old muscle selections from good vineyards that our neighbors, or some of them were from Paumo. So we use old muscle selections from old vines. That's how we started. So these are already. It's very important to know that these are on their own roots. We don't have any rootstocks for this Carmenere. So these obliqua wines are very specific. And when you were talking, Alistair, about the style, and And one of the first things to do is that these are very dry wines. We're talking about 2 grams, and we really like to ferment that in a very proper way so they can give a lot of air. But that's why this is more than just a Carmenere. We call it obliqua. And Vertisquero doesn't even have the varieties on the label, because we want to show you that it's the corner of a palta. And with obliqua, we're talking about a space that is very identified with this huge Chilean oak tree. That it's a pity that we can't really make our own maybe vats or barrels with our Chilean oak tree. There's been some trials and it hasn't worked very much because we have a lot of problems with the leakings. But when it's there and you see the photo of Janina there, that is an amazing place. You really see a palta from that place. And when we make wines, and when you make wine, you really have to feel the places. When we walk those places, and we always bring all our visitors go there. So when this thing's open back sometime, and if not, just come. We have to go there. When you get the sense of place, and that's why we did this launching in this way. So at least we can show you where we're going. You can see what it is, because the wines are about the terroir, are about the place. When we go with Sergio, Miguel, the viticulturist from Apalta, John Duval, all my winemaking team, and when we go to these places, to Apalta is a very beautiful place. It's a warm place, but when you go in altitude, it's a completely different environment, and really changes. It's not a warm place anymore at all. You really have much more rain. Sergio was talking about that we even don't irrigate too much. In some years, like 18, we even didn't irrigate. We didn't no irrigation at all, because of course you have this huge mountain on the back that brings all the water and rests in the soil. So it's quite an amazing place. So, and we really want to, all the winemakers want to reflect, not to manage too much of wine. So these are, first of all, these are our unfiltered wines, no clarification, no yeast. So very natural wines in the term, because it's a classic wine. Of course, we put sulfur for the bottling, but no sulfur at the entrance of the grape, because they're hand harvest, cool refrigeration. Then we don't do any clarification, no filtration, and of course no chemicals, because it's an organic vineyard. It's going to be certified, but it's been for the last 4 years an organic vineyard. So it's a beautiful place. Really doesn't need much. You just need to make the wine properly. So the winemakers are just for the tasting with Sergio and the viticulturists. We taste the grapes, and then it's quite more simple. It's just about the place.
It seems that Justin K have a question, or not? Good. Hi, Justin.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Felipe, I just want to follow on from what Alistair said, and actually from what you said before about export markets. How generally is Carmenere perceived on your export markets? I mean, in some places it's a fairly kind of niche variety. I mean, how are people responding to it? Is it growing in popularity? People are sort of buying more of it, or
it's a marvelous variety. Look, it's a very complex variety, especially for the experts like you guys. But at the level of consumers, we are sold out in Carmenere, just to tell you that. We are not able sometimes in some varieties to make the amount. We are planting more Carmenere than ever. Back again. Chile needs to plant more. The variety in Brazil is super popular. China, super popular. The northern European countries, Sweden, Finland, Ireland also, the Koreans. So there is a market where the consumer loves more the wine sometimes than even though the very experts. When I talk to sommeliers and so it's not always the trendy variety from Chile, Of course, because of that makes us as winemakers to push it more and to do it better and to understand more the terroirs and work more of that. But at the consumer level, people love Carmenere. It's amazing. Our Reserva Carmenere, our day-by-day Carmenere, blown out. So we really sometimes it's growing in a percentage that is maybe 20%, sometimes even 30% a year. Wow. So it's by far the most growing variety. Sauvignon Blanc also is quite crazy today. There's a thing about Sauvignon Blanc in the world that came back again. And of course, always the king is Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile. We're first variety sold is still Cabernet Sauvignon. But there's a lot of things. And the other variety that is coming very big for Chile also is Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is opening stores. We've been doing small. So it's a very fascinating time for Chile, I would say. I think the big work that all the viticultures, the winemakers, the owners of the winery, people really believing in our wine industry, in our wine world, is amazing. Smaller projects, bigger projects, a little bit of everything. It's exciting times for Chile. I know I've been working the last 26 years in this wine world, and I've seen all the differences. And it's just getting more exciting every day. We have Sergio's team, and with my team, we're working together in more things that are coming for the future. So it's just blown out. It's like you don't have time sometimes to think all the crazy things that we're doing, and then you have to keep the classics. So that's why always to launch a wine like this takes a lot of time. We really started making this wine on 13, 14, 15. It took us a lot of time because, yeah, it was okay, but it was too classic. Yeah, it was too oaky. Yeah, we didn't nail it in the harvest. We really wanted to show what this wine could give. So it took us a while. But Carmenere is blowing out very, very fast all over the world. Amazing. Especially also blends with Carmenere, very big. We have some blends with Carmenere. Vertice is going like this. Sometimes we just get sold out. We do there much more than Obliqua. We're talking about 50,000 bottles, 60,000 bottles. So, yeah, and for the price for 14. Yeah, that's amazing.
60,000, okay.
Matt Harris?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi, Matt.
Hope everyone's well. Nice to see everyone on the screen. Some nice old familiar faces out there.
Good to see you guys.
The question is about, it's quite controversial to release a really top-end flagship wine that is not lots of new oak. And I wondered how that went down with your home country consumers, the Chileans to start with, and also whether it crossed your mind that was quite a big step to do for the international market as well. I love it, by the way, so I don't have a problem with you not putting loads of new oak on it. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of the biggest issues. John is all about elegance. When you taste John's wines, John Duval wines, a lot of people, when we hired John Duval as a partner in 2003, there was all this view that Australian wines were getting super big and very oaky. But if you see the story of John Duval in Penfolds, it's always been very balanced wines. A lot of his wines in Penfolds wines, the oak, the alcohol were quite low, and there was some beautiful wines at San Henry and the Manitou barrels. And at that point, I think John helped us a lot in maintaining the balance. Look, there's some wines that we make with 60% new oak, and you don't feel the oak. The oak has to be part of your wine for the air, for the tannins. But if you put too much flavor of the oak in the wine, you start to lose what is really about the wine. That's why I always remember when I went with him to Penfolds, and we went to this huge area of the Shiraz San Henry, and I saw all those vats and said, John, what is this about in Penfolds? Well, these are 100%. And we tasted some wines he wasn't there anymore. He was good friends with the winemakers there, so we were tasting that by that. And of course, also traveling to Europe, tasting vats is like what we used to have in the old days in Chile also. We had the old Chilean vats, that were Rauli. It's another Chilean oak, Rauli oak, very simple, a little bit more rustic. And I think going back to that is what's going. So that's why we're using a barrel that's really on the third year. It's the second use because it was 2 years with Vertice, and then we select that. And we select that, and then using a vat that has really no oak on it influence. And I think it's about the wine. So, of course, some of the barrels sometimes, even though it's a third-year barrel, it will have some hints. So when we do this wine, we taste it barrel by barrel. And we were tasting, when one of the blends, Sergio and I, the 19 blend, we went there, we tasted barrel by barrel. And when a barrel is a little bit oaky, it gets out of the blend. It won't go to the blend. So we don't want the oak influence. And then at the end, you make the blend, and the wine does whatever it wants. Sometimes it will reflect more oak, less oak. But I think that more and more, the food has shown us. And there's a brand that has helped us a lot on this and showing and has been maybe that is Tara. Tara is a wine that doesn't have any oak influence at all, ever. And it's a great wine. And so you start to use all the things that, of course, they're super old techniques. You go to Italy, you go to France, you go to the Chilean old roots, and it's there. So why do we have to put so much, makeup in a wine? We don't really need the makeup in a wine like this. So that's a little bit what the story is. Of course, it's a challenge because there are some markets today that really want a lot of oak. But when we do wine with a purpose that is what we think about. Okay, and we think about it, we taste it, and we have to love it as winemakers. We cannot make a wine in this level that you don't love it. If you don't love it, it's not how you are, you cannot sell it. I cannot sell it properly. So if I would put too much makeup in this wine, it will be very complicated. Today we have makeup with Sergio. So that's why we're so shiny, we look so handsome and with less wrinkles and all that.
That's like the oak.
Yeah, that's like the oak. But here, there's no makeup. There is no makeup.
That's right. Thank you, Matt. Kate Hawking.
Hi there, everybody.
Hi.
Hi there. The great wines. Thanks very much. I'm just wondering what the total production is of the winery? Apart from these wines.
Total production?
Yeah.
We do today about 1 million cases. So
okay.
1.5 million cases more. And growing.
For all brands.
Yeah.
All the brands. Yeah. Everything.
Thank you very much.
We're not a small winery anymore.
Yeah.
Not at all.
We do small batch of wines, but we are not small.
Yeah, we have winery. We have like 4 wineries in the winery, 4 different small. We have the super small winery where we do all the experimental and wines like Obliqua. Then we have all the premium. It's a gravity reception winery. We have a very modern. It's already a 21-year-old winery, but it's an old winery, but it's 21, but super neat winery. Gravity reception. Very sustainable. We recycle the water. So from the beginning, the concept of the owner Gonzalo Vial was. I always remember when Gonzalo, when we were planting the vines, said no tree out. So you'll come to Ventisquero and you see our vineyards. They're full of killing trees in between. So we have to go this. We didn't take any creek out. So all what is about nature and that is just in common sense of the nature is there. There's no certification at the beginning. There's no nothing. It's just about, your feeling. And I think Gonzalo, in that way, is an amazing man because he puts us and he leads us to just take care of the environment. And today, that's more important than ever. And we have seen it. We're always talking about it. And we're going deep and deep with recycling, the water, always. And that was from the beginning. Today, we have more certifications. But it is part of how we make wine. That's why with John and the team, we don't filter these wines because we don't think we need them. Just need time. We need time to settle down these wines. And when they're ready, you bottle. It's not never the same month. We think, okay, we taste, we think, okay, we will bottle this month. That's how we make things.
And as Felipe says, we are not a small winery anymore. But the crazy thing is we have some blocks in the harvest. We have some block of 5 hectares, 1 hectare, half an hectare, or even 1 row. So it's crazy. Sometimes we fermented, we harvest apart 100 kilos. It's completely crazy. And Felipe and the team, they fermented apart. So the wonderful thing is that we are able, even if we are not a small winery, we are able to select the real small and specific grapes for a beautiful corner, a stony soil, or the last part of the row. And we do that. We are able to do that, and we are really proud and excited to be able to discover our terroir doing that. It's the only way, as I told you at the beginning, it's the only way to discover every single jewel that's hide in the ground when you harvest and you vinify every single small corner in your vineyard to see these HD, the high definition part of the blocks.
Yeah, it's amazing how we have always had the freedom. Our director, our team, our commercial team, our general director, they believe in us completely. And we have some crazy things. They know that sometimes we're hiding some things, new projects, and we don't tell everybody until we really go for them. And that's part of the beauty. That's why we are winemakers or wine growers, really. I think that we're more than winemakers, we're wine growers. Really, the viticulture and the winemaking is absolutely mixed together. We cannot say that we're vignerons because we're not a small winery. But I can tell you that each winemaker, Angel, Alejandro, Deborah, our viticultors, Fernando and Miguel, we walk a lot, we have our spaces, we don't go everywhere each other, we have separated things. And also for each vintage, we hire 8 winemakers to come. This vintage we had 3 Argentinian winemakers, we couldn't bring European winemakers, we have of course Chilean winemakers, and we have 2 houses because of this pandemic to separate them and to be proper. And we had an amazing vintage. This 2021 was a beautiful vintage, so we're so happy about that. And we made things and we didn't have issues. Of course, we use the facial mask all the day. I hate it, but it's part of life today. It's like I don't remember if I have it or I don't have it. But the wine is bigger than that, and I love that. So I think we are so convinced that there's one way to make good wine. Danina, please.
So there's a question from David Commode, which is, do you, Filippo, have a philosophy with tannins? And he's saying that because is it low intervention that results in the hallmark smoothness?
Well, I would say the philosophy is a little bit bigger. I've been starting to read Khalil Gibran recently. I love that guy, and I read it when I was younger, and I'm starting to read again then. Because normally when I would travel, I would read, because at home I was always crazy. When I would travel in the airplane, I would read, so I haven't been reading a lot. But I started reading back, and philosophy is a big name. But of course we do have a style. It depends on the variety and the soils and the tannins. And so we don't ferment the same way, even the same grape from different soils. So I would say that Pangea, for example, is a very big example because we have 10 hectares, so we have about 7 different blocks. And depending on the amount of stones and clay, we ferment differently. So we understand the tannin as a tool, as part of the wine, absolutely. And sometimes we ferment very early. That's why we normally do cold soaking. But some wines that are so amazing, normally when you have more stones, we can push until the end of fermentation. Today, more than ever, there's some big changes than maybe 10 years ago. We are harvesting a little bit earlier, so we want more freshness, more the natural acidity, and sometimes maybe the tannin is not so ready, because if we wait it to be ready, our sugar curve goes up too much. So when it goes up too much, what happens is that we get a big wine with beautiful ripe tannins, but it's a huge jammy wine, and we don't want that. We want to see the wine as it should be. I think it's a little bit more restrained, a little bit more. Then we have to polish the tannins and work it more. So today the tannins is by far, I would say, and that's why it's a very good question. By far, I think that we have to think vintage by vintage. The vintages are very different each year. We never know. Normally the first fermentations are very key to understand what's going to happen through the vintage. There's vintages I can tell you, like 15 big tannin vintage, 2008 big tannin vintage, 17 was a big tannin vintage, 18 beautiful tannins, easier because cooler vintages are a little bit more easier. Warmer vintage, you harvest early and you have a lot of tannins. So that's the clue. And I think in that way, John, and of course all my story working with Aurelio Montes and sometimes with other winemakers, is about taking. But we do have a technique and a style. I don't know if it's a philosophy. Maybe it's too big to talk about philosophy. It's like when we talk about wine, that is an art. I love it, but it's a work, It's like cooking, but it's a pleasure, but not philosophy yet.
Funny enough, Filippo, you mentioned the tannins on specific years compared to cool years like 2018. We do have 2017, 18 and 19 across these 3 wines. Between the two of you, do you have any comments on, I know 2018 was the perfect year ever. Did you have a favourite year? Was one of them easier to work? How would you just decipher from the two of you in a pauta these 3 vintages?
Okay. Each vintage have its own characteristic. 2017 was a warm year, or 20 as well. 18 were fresher, and the 21 was as well more fresh, and we had a complicated some rain in the middle of the summer. But this is a difficult question. I think in the big terrace, I mean in the great terrace, you taste that consistency. Of course, you can have a preference, but you don't have a huge difference between one another. We taste, for example, in the in the more flat areas or on the more average soils. Yeah, you feel in the 17 more alcoholic or maybe more rustic. But that happened that we taste with Felipe and the team, and also the viticulturist team, Miguel and Fernando. We realized that great terrace, I mean the well-balanced soil, the water-balanced soil, the very very well-balanced vineyard, they make a little bit less important that variation of the different harvests. Yeah, 2018 is beautiful, 21 as well, but there are some wines, and they say, for example, that 16 was too cold or too fresh. But it depends. Sometimes if you harvest in the right way, in a great terroir, in the 2017, that is a warm year, there are beautiful wines that the ones that we are tasting now. So I think that personally, we don't have some favorite harvest. I think that we love the difference between them, because that difference, the magic is that difference makes you feel that the terroir is alive. So that is amazing how you discover this different. There's a small difference between them. What do you think, Felipe, about this issue, the terroir?
Yeah, well, I personally, there's two things that happen a lot. Like we make the wines, so it's not so easy. It's like talking about your kids. I have my preferences as a consumer. I am a consumer. I'm a big fan of wine. I'm a big fan of beer, gin. Oof, in London, I love it. Haven't been there for a while, but 2 years already. But I have a style as a consumer. I know the years I love best. So to me, 11, 13, 10, and 18, and I think 21 are the best years I've had in the last decade, or a little bit more. Okay, I can tell you that because sometimes it's easier. You can reflect more what you want. But when you understand more of your terroir, and I think that's the key. What Sergio was saying, we don't really have a person, because first it's our work, so it's our passion. It's our passion to make wine. So when you have your work, your passion, you need to reflect the story of the year. And each year has a story. There's a beautiful, I don't know how to say it in English, but we say, cada día tiene su fan. Like every day has a meaning. Okay? And in vintage time, it's a little bit about that. Of course, our work is not then a warm year. If I would harvest the same day, the same wine, I would have my wines be super different. But we need to understand the grape and taste it. I always say to people, and I think Emma and Janina have heard of it, I would like to be inside of a grape. I would like to be a grape for a while,
Yeah.
Because
we are too big to be a...
Yeah, a little bit big, but I would like to be inside the grape, and sometimes I would like to be a yeast to understand why you ferment that way. So today I was saying with my partner Alejandro that we make the wines together a lot in the winemaking this last years. It's about how we can reflect in the best way, and that's about tasting. And we did a big change a few years ago. In Sergio, we were all about that. In those times, maybe I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Today we do great tastings in the winery. We ask the team to get the grapes, and we can taste the grapes as you taste. But it's been refrigerated, it's in the morning, your senses are okay, it's not hot. Because of course when you go tasting in the vineyard, it's amazing. Then you feel the place, you see Janina where you are right now, in Apalta, and you taste it, you want to harvest. At the end, there's some maybe next week, a week before. So we do tastings in the winery. All the winemakers, we taste the grapes, we invite the viticulture, and we do grape tastings. And that changes our philosophy completely. Yeah. And one thing is that first, the seeds normally are not always mature, The tannin maybe is not always mature, but there's a flavor that we want to reflect in the wine, and that's what we're doing. So there's a flavor. It's a total concept about that. And one of the things that is super important, I think, in wine is natural acidity. When you add acidity, you treat it, the wines get a little bit metallic. So that is going to, and I think in the gastronomic way, our wines are going that way. So normally, I think that has been a little bit pushed. Our wines are a bit fresher, less heavy, and I think the wines are better for food and for drinking. That's a little bit our style. And if you call it the Ventisquero philosophy, we're good for that.
I will just say thank you to everyone for listening and all your questions, and I hope you enjoyed being on the screen. I think it's been quite a fun experience, so I have nothing else to say. I think no one else has anything to say, but you have our contact details. You can certainly ask Emma Wellings about anything. Lovely winemaking team will happily answer any questions tomorrow, next day, whatever. Keep them busy. Guys, if you have anything else to say, please do.
Yeah, Janina, thank you. Really, it's been a pleasure, well, at least to see faces. I've been to so much things that I do, and I don't see any face because it's too much people, and we've done a lot of this, and I think you've been to a lot of Zooms or whatever system we're using about. It's lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. Of course, when we go there with Sergio, you need to invite us to a good bar to have a good gin. That's my first purpose. Today we're doing gins in Chile also, and of course to have a good bottle of wine, some good bars of wines that we're having today. We're very happy to be able to launch Obliqua today. It's a very important wine for us. Has a lot of story on the background. Part of the family. Very important the support of the family. The Vial family is super important for us. They are farmers. They pushed us to make good wines. And to have this unique wine that has Obliqua on the top of your tree that you're there, Janina, is an amazing experience. And to be able to reflect this in a bottle of wine, we're going to work on new bottles. We always talk about that. So we're going to try. Maybe we do a unique bottle for some markets, but it's about what is inside, of course. So thank you very much. I'm going to leave Sergio to the final words.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this virtual trip. It's a real tasting, but with virtual images. It's very weird as this virus have taken us apart, but also the technology take us together. So those times has been really strange and challenging. We are really proud and excited to be here to share what we do, what we love, what we do together with Felipe, with the viticultural team, the winemaker team, with John, with all the family, the Vial family. Really excited. We have fun to do that and to share. And for us, it's magic to be with you, sharing the impressions, having your questions. You are in the other side of the world, but we are enjoying the same glass, the same terroir, the same passion, the same spirit. So thank you very much in the name of all the team, the Ventisquero Wednesday team and the Vial family. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hagamos salud.
And salud.
Salud. You want to be in our? Can we do that? Is it proper to do that or not? Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll do it anyway. Woo! It's lovely to see you. A big hug from distance. Cheers, salud, we say in Spanish, that means health. So keep your health. So everybody, thank you for all the team on the back, all the camera team.
All the cameraman.
Here, my man, amazing team.
Thank
on
you,
the
guys.
Back. You don't this for all the support for everybody. Yeah, thank you,
Emma.
For
thank you, Emma.
Lovely Emma that's
Emma
there.
Janina. Thank you very much.
And keep rocking, guys. Keep rocking, huh? Keep rocking. We love you. Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Salud. Salud, my friend.